Right, so we're going to discuss how to defend zone read out of a 2-by-2 set. So we know that zone read is kind of a staple of all really, really good spread offenses. And so we're going to look at some of the things, especially in a four down front, things that you can do to stop the zone read and how that can change some of the fits and some of the linebackers' responsibilities. And then I'll show you some of the positives and negatives from all the different fronts that you can throw at them. So let's get started. All right, we're going to look at first an over front, right? That means we're going to put our three tech to the back and our no shade to the zone side or away from the back. All right, so the first thing that we want to look at, especially in this double situation, is where do our outside backers line up because they are going to be involved in the fits to the what we would consider the weak side, right? So away from the running back, we'd probably call this a strong left to the back. Our weak side linebacker is going to have to split between the number two and the offensive tackle. He cannot be a full cover down because he has an open B gap that he may have to fill. So he has to kind of split the difference or apex it, right? So our other Sam linebacker to the strength can be a full cover down because there is no open B. So he is able to play a little bit wider. And that helps us usually what we like out of this front is it does allow us to play shade, a really tight shade to number two with the Sam for any type of RPO, because that's usually what will happen out of this is you'll get, especially in Texas, the zone read is really kind of the first part of the new triple option, right? So you have option one is the dive essentially. Option two is the keep with the running back pressing the zone read, and then three is usually some type of quick game bubble or hitches or something like that. Is now kind of the modern version of the triple option. So with the Sam out wide, that really allows us to kind of play leveraged on this new pitch guy right here, right? The other thing that we want to talk about again is who do we want to have carrying the ball? Again, Texas, we tend to find that this guy usually is the stud. This guy's usually kind of the second best guy. So if we want this guy to carry the ball, one thing that we can do is play our backside or our end to the running back a little bit wider. Essentially, what most guys would call ghost nine. All right, we call this a seven. We use numbers to dictate our front. So this is a seven, meaning he's outside shade of the tight end or outside shade of the imaginary tight end. All right, we're still going to keep our outside shade of the guard, and on our backside remains the same. Now, what this means for him is any type of down block, he's going to play off of the block of the tackle. Any type of down block, he is limited now to having to sit. All right. A lot of times, if you play him tight, he gets a down block. If he was from this area, he could, chase the zone down and we'd have to exchange with the backer. But here, because he's too wide, he's going to have to sit, which should give a give read, which is probably what we want in this scenario. We're good on the pitch. We're good on the keep. We want to give them a give read, give it to the running back, and let's look at how we fit on the front side. So what we want here is our nose to press through his shade and keep this double team on him as long as possible. We tell the nose if you're being double teamed, that's a sign of respect. If you're not being double teamed, it is a sign of disrespect. You're singled up. You better be able to go make a play. All right. If this is a one-on-one situation, we expect our guys to defeat that block, get heel line, and then make a play. All right. But if it's double team, at least if nothing else, we can allow our shade to chip. And if nothing else, we want to hold this double team up and not allow the guard to also chip because we're going to see here in a minute we need to be able to fill different gaps. So backside DN or to the zone side, he's going to play outside leverage of this block. He gets a base block. He's going to stay on the outside shoulder, set the post, all right, set an edge. And then the goal is to keep the heel line occupied. We don't want to get upfield, right, because this opens up gaps behind us. We want to get to the heel line and control the line of scrimmage. Sometimes we'll play what's called a five tech and we'll allow him to, on a base block, come inside, and that allows the wheel to stay outside. But for just kind of starters, what we teach kind of our younger kids are if you get a base, stay outside, win, get butt to butt. Now you can go inside and make a play. But keep the post on the outside. Now that means the wheel again. He's got an open B gap, so he's got an apex closer to the box. Now he would have to be the one to fit into that B gap, right? And why we want that double team held as long as possible because we don't want this guard to come off now and single up the wheel. We don't like this matchup here. Now we're singled up across the zone side. Now that he could bounce, and if you see here, if we're playing a cover two shell behind, the safeties are getting out deep because they're thinking cover two can't get beat deep. They're going to be late to trigger on the fits. The corners who are playing cover two are going to be a little bit faster. but we want them to, for the most part, keep the outside leverage on the corner or sorry, on the wide receiver because we think about gaps all the way out, right? So here's our gap, right? Here's essentially our C gap. Now the D gap now to the sideline would be what we call the E gap, right? So at least in this structure, if there's a tight end, then the letters would change. But for right here, just think about gaps all the way out. All right, so we want him to keep the outside gap. If he does come inside, we tell him he's got to win. He's got to make the play because we've lost contain on the outside. And that would mean that the safety would now have to come all the way across to fill that other gap because he jumped inside. All right, so we want him to fill outside. The safety would be late to the fit. All right, so we want to make sure if the will has to fill this B gap, we would like for him to be able to not get hung up on a guard, and basically be blocked, singled up, and which is not what we want for the outside backer. One thing we can do though is play it with our Mike, right? If Mike is reading flow, if he's stacked over the ball, we would tend to tell him center to guard, guard to football. So he's going to see the zone. Initially, he's thinking open A gap, I'm going to fill. Now he checks flow. Flow is two away from the running back going to the weak side. He's now going to scrape at a 45 angle, trying to stay behind the ball. That can help him be the one to fill the B gap, right, and keep the will from having to do it. With the mic scraping to the B gap, it would now allow the wheel to stay outside leverage, which again keeps us better contained for the bounce of the ball. However, what that will do too is if the mic is triggering fast to the B gap, a lot of times the running back will see that, cut back in the backside A, and now we're outmanned here, and this would be, safeties would now have to bottle this up late for about an 8 to 10 yard gain, and that's not what we want. So we would have to tell our mics really to play this, patiently downhill, stay on the back hip of the football. That way, if it were to cut back, we could still then cut back and play in this gap right here. Because what should happen with the mic going at a 45 into the B gap, the tackle's going to press through his shade, which is the guard, not allow him to chip off and come to the mic. If he does chip and the mic does fill A gap, boom, boom, now we're kind of in a bad situation too. So we want this double team to hold as much as possible too. And so we know um, in essence, we're gonna be kind of one short somewhere, but we want to make sure that we're accounting for the zone. So that's the way we can first work the zone read is the over front with the mic stacked, but he's got to make sure that he is taking care of not just triggering as fast as he can over the ball because we could get a cut back up through the seam. Another way we could play the over front too is to have the mic in the essentially what would be the weak B. All right, and that would allow the mic in the end to play essentially the B and the C gap. It allow the will to play wider on number two. This can help for teams that are able to flop the read, meaning they are kind of an RPO triple option team. Sometimes they can look like this is the read side because it's to the back, but he'll actually boom pop his feet and hit this backside. So if it's a team that's good enough to do that, tucking the mic in the weak B, keeping him on that side would allow us to apex, sorry, not apex, but we would full cover down number two, and that would keep us kind of evenly matched against an RPO team that could flop the read. What it would do now is this end and the mic would play off as opposite of each other. So if the end is outside, the mic is now inside. All right. If something crazy happens, and sometimes we'll tell when this is our alignment, we'll give this end kind of almost like that heavy technique where five technique where he comes in on a base, and that allows our mic to scrape. We want him to exchange, pretty tight. We don't want to get too much air in the exchange there because then that tends to give cutback lanes. But now we're gapped up as see across this front. We know our weakness though is going to be this A gap, right? So if we're in this front, we've got to do something to um, account for the A gap. So we could do some things like stunt. All right, we could slant, and that would keep everything shored up there. We would probably, if we were to do that, now we would probably want to tuck our end a little bit closer, all right, and either slant him inside too, or on a down block, have him play down the line on the backside and protect that B gap as well. That would shore us up across the front. we'd be good on the zone. However, we would be, obviously a little bit later on the pull because the Sam is inside, full cover down on number two. He would be late to the quarterback, and if he was late to the quarterback pulls up, throws the pitch. Now we're kind of in a bad scenario for the pitch. So those are some things that can happen in that situation. So that's why a lot of times what we'll do if we want to keep that NY, we want there to be a give read, but we want to shore up the front side as well and keep that wheel on a cover, cover down on number two. We would do what's called probably, we twist them right. So he would come through the A and then he'd come through the opposite A, and his path should make him cover this kind of A to B gap here, for the cutback, or especially when he gets through. Sometimes we get him to come to get back to vertical. So as soon as he clears, he's now got to get back to vertical, protecting this A gap. The tackle is going to, twist, and a lot of times he'll open up to that slant from the nose. He'll leave off to the mic, and now that opens up a clear A gap for the tackle to insert and take the zone when he's not expecting it, because we should get a fill. And now this guy, the guard, is probably going to say he's gone. I'm going to go to the mic. That opens up the gap. Running back sees it. Everything's kind of short up and either cuts back into the twist from the tackle or bounces it out where we still have a +1 from the wheel out here. And late guys setting the edge as well. So we're good on that. A twist is a good way to cover up an A gap if your mic is backside. So that's how we could do it in an over front. Next, let's look at what we could do in an under front. So now let's look at how we would fit it with an under front. So now our shade is to the back, our three is away from the back. That would allow the wheel to be a full cover down on number two, even though he is not technically on the read side. The Sam, who is on the read side, now has to apex between the tackle and number two because there is an open B gap. We can make a change here in just a second to show you to kind of keep that him a full cover down, which I would recommend. But for right now, let's look at it in the stack position. So our fits are very simple. Again, we would have to decide: do we want him to keep it or him to give it? If we want him to keep it, this end has to push off the hip of the guard, play through his hip. As soon as he sees the down block, he's hauling butt down the heel line and trying to get to the zone that covers up the B gap. Now allows the Sam to play a little bit wider, but it does give the quarterback a give read. And now the Sam is obviously going to have to be the one to fill, which would be late, which can be a problem. We can make an adjustment here in a second to change that, but that could be an issue if the Sam, is worried too much about the pitch and now the end's crashed. There's nobody to take the keep until the safety comes. And again, 8 to 10 yard gain, something that we don't want. All right, so if we were to have him sit, if you were to see a down block and just squeeze and sit right there, he would play through the hip and now just sit, make the give read. Now we're going to play through our shade. Don't let our shade climb to the mic. Again, stay on our shade, stay on our shade. We're good on the front. The mic is probably going to have to just go ahead and fill A gap because he sees the split, plus he's on the ball. That does give us a cut back into the B, which can be a bit of an issue, but we are good on the front side if the ball does continue to bounce out. We're pretty good there. Allows us to set the edge. It gives us more of a true single on the three and the five, which I like. But we are again, we would either have to really surf him down to really close off that cutback, but now again, we would risk losing the leverage on the quarterback. But what we can do to change that would to be to actually move the mic into more of what we call a kind of a four look for us, which is inside leg of the tackle, and now he's working off of the end. Again, we could play him in a wider nine, and they might even feel like they have to double or really come out wide, and now the wheel, the end can really come underneath quick. But for right now, we'll keep him in kind of that tight five where he was. But now with the mic there, we now can give a chase call that bumps the sandbag back out to a full cover down, which we like against the pitch. All right, we are weak in the strong A gap, so we'd have to do something to shore that up. And what we could do, we could slant and that would keep everybody there. And now the end could chase the zone, all right, with a down block because now the mic will exchange with the end. So now we're good on the front side. We're gapped up, especially when we're slanting, especially across that base from the center. We're good in the A, we're good in the B, we're good in the C. We have a +1 there as well. And then now the end's crashing, so he's kind of accounting for the B slash A gap from the back side. He's not worried about the quarterback. He is strictly chasing the zone that way. If he sees that everything is solid and cuts back, there's the end to take him. And now what the quarterback should have a keep read because the end's crashing. He keeps it. All of a sudden, the mic, um, who should scrape pretty tight here. We need the end to really get hit hands on this down block. I've heard, give friction. I've heard strike a match to keep it kind of tight. But we like punch the hip. That way that the tackle can't just climb straight to the mic. Kind of gives him more of an angle there and allows the mic to get over the top. He's got to be tight to it so that way he's kind of inside out on the quarterback. Don't allow him to cut inside. Push that quarterback out where now we're better suited to come fill a little bit later there. We're gapped up across the front. So that's what I would do, is play an under front with the mic in that kind of four tech position where he's inside shade. It allows for the end to chase, the mic to exchange for the keep. We probably want to stunt to take care of the strong A gap, and we're good everywhere. Plus, we're okay on the pitch. Um, and then our free is going to be the last filler. Corner can keep outside leverage there, and we're gapped up across everywhere. And so I feel like that's the best way to handle the read zone, the zone read, when we look at attacking it from a four down scenario. For the last part of this video, we're going to look at actually how now to attack the zone read or defend the zone read in an odd front structure. So what this does allow you to do is be balanced. It adds obviously a second mic and it keeps, now a three down front. We would probably head up the nose, and that would present some problems, right? So now the nose is almost responsible for two gaps. So we would either have to, slant him one way or the other. Usually we would try and slant him. A lot of times we'd slant him, either weak or strong. For us, this would probably be strong. That way, we're good on the cutback. If we felt like that's what the back liked to do. If the back wasn't more of a cutback, if he was kind of a true wanted to bounce out, we'd slant him weak, right? And then again, the backer and the end would work off these two gaps. He could play the down, we could scrape, and we're good on both of those. We're full cover downs on the outside. Um, we've also done some things where um, we've really shaded these guys even more so. Like we'll come inside, if this is to the strength, um, or we'll go to the weak side. Perhaps let's go. We're gonna outside shade this end. We're gonna take the nose there. We're gonna bring the end inside. We're gonna keep this mic outside, and we're gonna play this mic right here. And now that gives it a little bit different of a look. It's still kind of again, he's gonna want to crash down there. He's probably going to want to either help with the nose or get to the other backer. They would probably have to at least, easily chip here, go here, and then the guard would probably come off the nose to the backer, depending on what happened here. But what this would allow us to do now is play through the shade, keep the B gap, hold the double team, play outside. The backer would play inside, and now the mic can exchange for that. And then the end, who's playing through that gap, can almost be responsible for this gap as well. He would have to just squeeze down. Mike would have to squeeze as well, and that would keep it. So you could do some things too, like sliding it over. And that would account for some different blocking schemes. It would make the nose easier, like he would just press through this nose, hold that double team, allow the backer to fit, him to stay outside. The will's a +1 to that side. The safety's back deep, probably in cover two. Um, and then the mic, he's playing through the inside gap, so the mic's exchanging with the end. So now he's the outside gap, noses through. Obviously, we're kind of weak there in the cutback lane, so we would have to, either kind of slant him through that guard to account for that is one way that you can shut down that cutback easily and still be good on the bounce side. Just a few different ways, a few different things that you can do to set up defending the zone read. Just understanding that everything comes with its kind of own unique set of principles, its own kind of dynamics, and you have to account for the weakness in each of those fronts. There's no right or wrong way, in my opinion, to do it. It's just whatever you think is successful for that week, depending on the personnel that you're playing. I hope that video helps. If you have any comments, shoot me a comment in the bottom. I'll hopefully answer it for you. And until next time, we'll talk some more ball.